With more than 1 billion users, TikTok has long ceased to be a platform for viral dances. Created by the Chinese app factory, ByteDance, it is one of the few social networks still expanding at a time when many large companies in the sector are cutting resources and employees. And it is at the center of the geopolitical dispute at the time, the Cold War 2.0 led by the United States and China. The American offensive against the app, started during the Donald Trump administration, reached unprecedented levels in recent weeks. On the one hand, it spread across the globe, with at least 8 of the country's allies banning access to the platform from government networks in March alone. On the other hand, the escalation of tensions between Washington and Beijing after the balloon crisis made American politicians radicalize their anti-China speech, which was evident in the real frying session of TikTok CEO Shou Zi-Chew in the U.S. Congress.
What are the U.S. charges against TikTok? The U.S. government has 2 major suspicions about the social network. The first is that it is used by the Chinese regime to spy on American citizens. Like other apps like Facebook and Instagram, TikTok collects all sorts of data from its users and uses that information to feed its algorithms. The difference is that ByteDance, which owns the app, is a Chinese company and therefore would be subject to a national security law that requires it to pass data to the regime if required. The second suspicion is that TikTok's video recommendation algorithm, known for its ability to retain users in an eternal loop, also has advertising purposes, influencing public opinion by promoting or suppressing strategic posts. Republican Senator Ted Cruz sums up this logic well. He has described the platform as a Trojan horse that the Chinese Communist Party uses to influence what Americans watch, listen to and, ultimately, think. When did the U.S. start going after TikTok? In 2020, amid the siege of Chinese technology products promoted by Trump. That year, the then president signed an executive order that required TikTok to sell its U.S. assets. Otherwise, it would be banned from operating locally. ByteDance even looked for an American buyer for the company at the time, but the decree was overturned in court and suspended by Joe Biden when he assumed the presidency. Last June, however, the Democrat published a new, broader executive order, calling attention to the dangers of foreign technologies to national security. Both decrees are part of a context of increasingly fierce competition between Washington and Beijing in the field of innovation. At the end of February, amid discussions about banning the app from the territory for good, the U.S. gave a 30-day deadline for its government agencies to delete TikTok from federal devices and systems. Which countries ban or limit the use of TikTok? Why? The movement began with India, in 2020, during the escalation of tensions with the Xi Jinping regime on the Himalayan border. At the time, the country banned a number of Chinese apps, including TikTok. Pakistan has temporarily suspended the platform at least 4 times since October of that year for allegedly promoting immoral content. The Taliban banned the network in Afghanistan for similar reasons in 2022, it is said to be misdirecting youth. Between February and March of this year, a number of U.S. allies began to suspend the use of TikTok for cybersecurity reasons. In their case, however, the prohibitions are limited to the use of the application in the public sector, on the grounds that politicians and civil servants have access to potentially sensitive information on their professional cell phones. The list includes Canada, Denmark, Netherlands, Latvia, Norway, United Kingdom, New Zealand and the main institutions of the European Union. In addition to them, Belgium vetoed the platform on government member cell phones, but only for 6 months, and France banned not only TikTok but other recreational use apps, such as Instagram, Twitter and Netflix. Taiwan banned all Chinese-origin software late last year. What were the proposed solutions to the dispute in the USA? The U.S. government has 2 paths ahead. One of them is to support an initiative that TikTok has already started to implement in the country, at a cost of $1.5 billion. Called Project Texas, it would make the data produced by American users be restricted to their territory by being stored by Oracle, an American cloud software company. Employees and board members of the platform in the country would also pass through the federal scrutiny, in a degree of state supervision unimaginable in native social networks. Another way is to veto the application, through the legislative or the executive. The White House endorsed a bipartisan bill called Restrict, which would give the government the authority to compel foreign software to sell its assets or ban it if it is deemed a threat to national security. At the same time, an agency linked to the Treasury Department issued a kind of ultimatum for ByteDance to sell its U.S. assets. Separating itself from its parent company and cutting ties with China for good is seen as a last resort by TikTok. Is Project Texas enough to protect U.S. citizen data? Yes, says Belli. Another valid option, for the researcher, would be for the U.S. to create a unified data protection legislation, as the European Union, Brazil, and China itself have. The bill would regulate access to U.S. user information from all apps, not just foreign ones. Can the USA ban TikTok? Yes, both by presidential decree and legislation passed by Congress. But both could be overthrown by justice based on laws that guarantee freedom of expression. Domestically, the U.S. has the First Amendment. At the international level, the obstacle is the UN International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, to which Washington is a signatory. It determines that states can impose restrictions on freedom of expression as long as it is for a legitimate purpose and in accordance with the principle of proportionality. While national security is indeed a legitimate purpose, banning an app entirely is not considered proportionate. What is China's position in this dispute? In general, Beijing understands the offensive against TikTok as part of a campaign to contain the expansion of its influence in the world, and vehemently denies that it has access to data from the application, which it defines as an entertainment platform without political purposes. The first time the regime spoke directly about a possible split between TikTok and ByteDance was when Shou Zichu testified before the U.S. Congress. At the time, a spokesman for the Chinese Foreign Ministry said that Beijing was firmly opposed to its sale. This may indicate an obstacle to a possible negotiation, since ByteDance needs authorization from the regime to sell the application.